Hello and welcome back to my hot stream. Continue with the role-playing series. I started with Rolemaster. I've got closed beta access to Rune and Steel, which is currently on Kickstarter. I'll put the link down below, as always. This is an interesting new tabletop RPG. My old GM from Rolemaster and D&D came up with it with his son. It's Viking-based. The creator's very much into Viking lore, Viking history, Scandinavian culture. Even wrote a book called Fury of the Northmen. So he asked me to check this out. And I've been really getting into RPGs since the quarantine, of course. What else there to do, right? I'm currently in one Rolemaster game, jumping into another. So I want to do a little bit of a review. Check it out. Say something about it on the channel. So let's start with the system. I've been getting into, as I said, many RPGs. This one, similarities, of course, with many other RPG systems out there. I found it quite crunchy. This is obviously new terminology for me. The rule system, dice pool, I've never been into dice pools. Not my sort of game. Obviously lots of rolling of dice, checking your dice, making sure you overcome the success numbers, all that good stuff. That's part of the whole dice pool system. It's not really for me, but obviously it's got its pros, it's got its cons. I'm not going to say too much because I don't want to give away too much of the game. It's a Kickstarter, you can check it out. I might even do some videos going through step by step some of the combat, things like that. We'll see. Not quite sure how far we're going to go with this. I would definitely like to make character, but anyhow, the system is what it is. Add or subtract to rolls, add dice. You got fate dice, you got negative fate dice. Tons and tons of things going on with this system. We got criticals. Again, he was a GM of Rolemaster, so it only makes sense that he's going to be interested in criticals, critical system, something that D&D never really got into. I mean, come on, multiple damage is not a critical system, right? So we got that. We got hit location. We got damage type, kind of like what we have in Rolemaster. That's quite nice to see as well. Jump into some of the unique aspects, some of the things that perhaps might draw players in, might be of interest because they're different. First thing was, when the player dies, that's not the end. And that's really, really cool. You can play a ghost, which reminded me a lot of Conan the Barbarian's Valkyrie, where she comes down out of nowhere to save Conan. Get this idea that you have basically a variety of powers, right? You can still stay in the session, makes the players happier. They can do something. They're not sitting there re-rolling another character or whatever. It's a nice, very nice system. And you can roleplay it. So if they roleplay it well, they gain a bonus when they create their next character. So it's an interesting, different system. I've never even thought about that. It reminds me also of MMOs. When you die, you run back to your body. Games like Guild Wars or other games where you can help while you're dying. You're in this state of dying. You've got some abilities. Age is a factor in character creation. I thought this was pretty cool. The older you are, the more skill you have at level 1, but the more flawed you are. So this gives you a variety. I think there are 3 different age categories: young, then adult, then middle age. Really, really nice. I like that. I think maybe first edition AD&D had sort of age groupings for levels. So yeah, pretty cool. The game is classless. You do have professions, and they are tied to your social class. But I really do like classless systems. I'm a big fan of classless and levelless. Been looking at RuneQuest lately. So yeah, I'm a big fan of those sort of systems. So classless is great. There are levels in this game. Something we'll talk about later. Titles give you a package of skills. So that's something else. You get titles in this game, which is also very interesting. Similar to Rolemaster's training packages. But again, there's a whole different aspect to this game. As far as the rest of the main player's book, yeah, it's everything you'd expect. You've got random encounters, you've got hazardous terrain, you've got templates, tons of templates for fast character creation, racist skills, all kinds of stuff. You got all kinds of things that you would expect in a normal book. The pros, there are quite a few. So one of the things I really liked is as your skills go up, you gain abilities. Think of them as perks, special abilities, traits, whatever. At levels 4, 7, and 10, of the skill. So this is something even I thought about back in the early 2000s when I was creating my own system, was I want skills to have abilities and perks and things like that. So that's really cool. Something that Rolemaster lacked. Personality types. You have personality types in the game. Help you with role playing. I love that. I love it and seeing that in all the games that have these sort of things. Anything that aids in role playing, gives you bonuses, gives you special experience, lets you do different things. In this case, giving you fate dice to help you survive, basically. This game is not the safest game. It's kind of like Rolemaster in that it's pretty high damage. It can be quite deadly. And the GM gets negative fate dice every time you use fate dice, so it's quite interesting how that works out. Playing your personality well, role-playing correctly, gets you those fate dice, or removes negative fate dice from the GM. Deeds! Characters have titles. I love this. And this can help them with buffs, rule modifications, additions, etc. Gives the game more variation, makes you have more unique characters. Again, it's just more of the same with personality types, deeds, cultures, then you get into races and such. The magic in system is predicated on the kind of world you want to build. They've put in rules to allow you have no magic, low magic, high magic, which is great because when I think of Viking, I think low magic, right? But they've got the rules in there for high magic or even low to no magic, very, very little magic. So that's great. They've done that. Combat, I said before, hit locations, special damage types. I love it. That's what I want, and that's what I also looked into myself when I was doing all this sort of world building and rule sets. I always wanted to have that Rolemaster without the charts, and that's what they've got here. Rolemaster without charts. Only downside, like I said, was that amount of dice you're rolling, for example. But regardless, roll a hit location, and the weapon tells you the type of damage it does, slashing, piercing, and so on. And weapons also have special effects. Armor can absorb damage, and it gives you additional bonuses as well. So we're not doing the same thing that Rolemaster did. This is something just a bit more basic and more simple, and I like it, just absorbing damage. Pretty common in a lot of RPGs. Combat rounds are clearly explained, what you can and can't do. Lots and lots of options, so I was really, really happy with that. Tons of different things you could do, all very well explained. You can resist criticals. Okay, so that was another aspect of criticals. In most games, how do you resist a critical? How do you resist just being killed, one-shotted? You have a helmet on, or you have a breastplate on, or something like that. It's in the rubric, right? That's not always great. Here we have something very similar to like save versus death back in the old D&D. You can resist criticals. So that's really, really nice. I like that. You obviously have fate dice to throw in there as well to help you because there's nothing worse than just dying from the dice. That's not fun. They also put in rules for armies and sieges, which I thought was really cool. Definitely like that, and I did have a lot of fun with this particular GM in one army session. So that was great to see those rules there as well. Ships, naval combat, it's all there. Vikings, they got to have that. And the world is for the building. So this is another pro I thought, was that I like the fact that it's not an established setting. They're established races and cultures for humans. And, you've got this Viking idea. You also got other groups. You've got your anglicized groups. You've got other types of people out there. But you build the world. And I think that's really great. I'm going to jump to things I did not like because I didn't want to hold back. I do have a problem with that crunchiness. I'm not a huge fan of dice rolling, just rolling 12 dice, Obviously, it's not that many all the time, but you get to that point, I'm just not, I'm out. I don't want to roll too many dice. That's a problem already with Rolemaster. Too many dice to roll. So, yeah. Another problem was there are a lot of places where point costs appear, but were very hard for me to figure out how to pay for. Like, for example, greater tiles costing a lot of points. Do I save up points from first level to second level, which is basically what you do, but it's not explicitly explained. We're talking about closed beta. This is the first draft, second draft, whatever. They need to perhaps iron out some of those things and make it a bit more clear so we can understand. The templating, that was confusing. A lot of stuff was shown before you get into the rules. That's something they're going to be changing. Because one of the worst things was seeing a whole lot of stuff about lineages and stats and things like that, but I didn't know what those were until afterwards. I definitely want those things to be reordered, because otherwise you're just going to be lost. And that does remind me a bit of Rolemaster 2nd Edition, for example. Another thing I did not like was magic is corruptive and dangerous. No! I just can't. I mean, I'm currently playing in a game where magic is that. It's corruptive and dangerous, and I can blow up the party, I can kill myself, I can do all kinds of things. I'm not very happy about that. I don't really want to play that, but it's something to try, right? This is interesting because he's got different ways to offset those things, but I just feel like if I'm going to have to worry about corruption all the time, I'm going to hold back. Maybe I'm not going to push myself as far. I'm going to constantly be worried about, oh, I got to, spend my downtime offsetting this corruption, removing corruption points. It's great for role playing. There's some great bonuses for that. It is kind of cool. But yeah, I don't want that. Also, if you are going to go down the route with corruption, there should be more benefit. There should be something else. There are some benefits at very, very, very at the end, very far at the end. The most powerful corruption you can get does turn you into a pretty cool monster, but that's early on. There's nothing like that. So yeah, if you're going to put all these negatives, you might as well put some bonuses, even if they're evil or even if they're corrupted or whatever. That would be nice incentive and help you as well. So that would be kind of cool as it is. Lots of abbreviations. I had lots of problems with abbreviations. I was constantly looking at them. Why? Because we're talking about a new system. A new system's going to have new abbreviations. They're not going to go with standard. I get that, but that was something I was constantly dealing with and grappling with, was just the amount of abbreviations to go through. Combat chart is a bit complicated in presentation. This reminds me of Rolemaster Fantasy RPG, the last version, I believe. It was really bad with symbols, tons and tons of symbols. I know you're trying to put as much information as possible into a chart and you have to make those sort of decisions, but I definitely don't like it. I'd much rather see something more explained, drawn out, written out. It's much easier. Quick damage calculation is at the end of the combat information when it would be better suited at the start. So there's like just examples that perhaps could be moved around. Again, it's the outlining. There's a lot of things that need to be outlined, changed, and that's something they can easily do. Like again, this is the closed beta, so combat rules could be better explained as well. I think there could be a lot more room for those examples given, because there are examples throughout. You'll get examples explaining, this is how skill resolution works, this is how combat works. That's great, and those are all needed. You might want to think, okay, where do we put these? Do we put this before or after we explain these principles? Sometimes it's useful to put it before, but most of the time it's best to put it afterwards, because then you work from the principles, you learn the principles, and then you see how they work in action, and then you do it yourself. But yeah, for the most part, that is how it is in the book, but I did struggle with some things. Those are the negatives. There are a couple other little things that were bothersome that were sort of neutral. We'll talk about those at the end. So, concluding, I think this game has a lot of appeal to role players, as well as those who like crunchy rules. Again, I like the realism, but sometimes the rules get in the way for me, and that's probably down to the fact I haven't played very much in the last 20 years. It's been mostly Rolemaster and D&D, and the fact that I haven't actually played this, that's maybe the most important thing. I haven't jumped into this game yet. Haven't played a session. That's something important. I need to go through, get my hands on a character and start working through and getting to grips with it. For GMs, a lot of what's here is similar to D&D in the sense of presenting difficulty challenges, watching a role playing and rewarding them for good play. I like that. Combat doesn't look terribly long, so it's not as bad as Rolemaster. You get that simplified D&D style damage, but you also have the specificity of a Rolemaster damage chart with location and more interesting damage. Like many older and newer tabletop RPGs, the fun ends at level 10. I have a problem with that. I really, really do have issues with that. But then again, I haven't played in those systems. One of these days I'll get around to it, and maybe it won't feel as bad. Now, the only thing I didn't get to grips with was how do you level in this? I don't know how you level. Couldn't find much on it other than you can go to a trainer, you can pay them, and they can train you. I'm guessing while you're playing, you're doing an activity, and after you've done that activity, you can pay to then increase the skill of that activity. But then again, I didn't see anything about experience points, nothing implying, hey, this is how you keep track of what you did that session and then how you're going to level up, as it were. So that's something important. I also didn't see how treasure, loot, or magic items were handled. There didn't seem to be any of these things. Your social class earns you money, which is cool, and that's great. But what about those things like loot and treasure? Do you just pick it up, take it back to town? Do you role play it out? Do you kill weird creatures and then take them back as bounties like The Witcher? I did see that there was a big push for crafting, so maybe that's it. Maybe crafting is the way. You don't really go for magic items. You're not really going looking for improving your items in that regard. You're just getting money and then buying better crafted items or crafting them yourself. So maybe that's it. Not sure. So there's a lot to think about here. I think a good GM can do a lot with it. I am still looking forward to trying out a game or 3 in the future. I really want to grapple the rules and see if maybe I can learn to love dice pools and those sort of systems. Like I said, there are advantages to using them over the traditional D20, D100. So I think if people are interested, I would like to go and jump into character creation for my next video, just see how it works. And then we'll talk about going into combat, simulating some of these aspects and seeing how it all works out. Thank you very much for watching. Do check out my Rolemaster video and see what I have to say about my own interest in creating content and specifically a book back in the early 2000s. Yeah, check out the rest of my channel. Has nothing to do with role playing, and I'll catch you next time.